Be prepared. Tomorrow, April 3rd, the universe is about to pull back the curtain on every relationship in your life, and what it reveals might shake you to your core. This isn't just another planetary transit. This is a cosmic lie detector test, and nobody gets to sit this one out. At 6:30 tomorrow morning, Venus, the planet of love, values, and everything you hold dear, collides with Pluto, the lord of the underworld, in one of the most intense, uncompromising angles possible. And here's what nobody's telling you. This isn't about whether someone loves you, it's about how they love you, and more importantly, why. Because there's a huge difference between someone who loves you and someone who needs to control you, between someone who values you and someone who owns you, between real devotion and a trauma bond disguised as passion. And tomorrow, the mask comes off. And if you've been feeling a strange, visceral repulsion towards someone you're supposed to love, or if you've caught yourself questioning whether you're in a partnership or a prison, keep watching. Because there's one specific reason why this is happening to you right now, and I will explain it later, so stay tuned. But first, you need to understand why the next 48 hours are absolutely critical, because what's about to surface, most people won't see it coming until it's already exploded in their face. This isn't just any Venus-Pluto aspect, it's a fixed square. Let me break this down in a way that'll make sense. In astrology, when two planets form a 90-degree angle, a square, they're in direct conflict. They're pulling in opposite directions, creating friction, tension, and ultimately a crisis that demands resolution. But here's where it gets intense. Both Venus and Pluto are locked in what's called the fixed cross, Venus in Taurus, Pluto in Aquarius. And fixed signs? They don't bend. They don't compromise, they don't adapt. They dig in, double down, and fight to the death for what they believe is theirs. Think of it like this. Imagine two mountains trying to occupy the same space. Something has to give, something has to break, something has to transform. And in relationships, that something is usually the comfortable lie you've been living. Venus in Taurus wants security, physical touch, predictability, the comfort of knowing exactly where you stand. It wants to build something solid, tangible, permanent. It wants to hold on tight and never let go. But Pluto in Aquarius, it wants freedom, space, truth, the ability to exist as a completely separate, sovereign individual without being consumed, controlled, or caged. It wants to tear down anything that feels like ownership disguised as love. So when these two forces collide tomorrow, something's got to break. And what breaks is the illusion, the pretty story you've been telling yourself about your relationship, the part where you convinced yourself that jealousy equals passion, that control equals care, that being needed is the same as being loved. Tomorrow strips that story down to its bones. And what's left? That's the truth. 2 days ago, the full moon already started exposing the cracks. This didn't come out of nowhere. On April 1st, we had a full moon in Libra, the sign of relationships, balance, and partnerships. And here's the thing about Libra, it's ruled by Venus. So that full moon was essentially a spotlight shining directly on your relationships, illuminating every imbalance, every place you've been people-pleasing, every moment you've sacrificed your truth to keep the peace. It asked you some uncomfortable questions. Where are you giving more than you're receiving? Where have you stayed silent to avoid conflict? Where have you convinced yourself that this is just how relationships are, when deep down, your body knows something's off? The full moon showed you the cracks. Tomorrow, Pluto pries them wide open. And for a lot of people, that revelation is already starting. Maybe you've noticed something feels different, heavier, like a storm building on the horizon. You might have had a strange conversation, a sudden argument that came out of nowhere, or just this creeping sense that something's about to change. That's not paranoia, that's the energy already moving, because cosmic events like this don't just happen in a single moment. They ripple forward and backward, building pressure until the exact alignment hits. And when it does, everything that's been simmering beneath the surface erupts. But here's the gift hidden in the chaos. Before the Venus-Pluto collision reaches its peak tomorrow evening, something beautiful happens. At 7:30 in the morning, Mercury in Pisces forms a perfect trine with Jupiter in Cancer. And this is the universe's way of making sure you don't just break. It's giving you the clarity, the wisdom, and the emotional capacity to understand what's happening. Mercury-Jupiter trines are like cosmic downloads. Suddenly things click. Conversations that have been impossible for months finally flow. You see the bigger picture. You understand why this pain, this exposure, this uncomfortable truth, it's all necessary. This trine gives you the words, the compassion, the ability to process what's being revealed without completely falling apart. It's the difference between a breakdown and a breakthrough. So if you find yourself in a deep, meaningful conversation tomorrow morning, pay attention. If you have a sudden realization that makes everything make sense, write it down. Because that clarity is preparation for what comes later in the day. The universe isn't cruel, it's strategic. It's giving you the emotional shock absorber before the impact. Remember when I said there's a reason you've been feeling repulsion? This is it. Your body has been trying to tell you something, but your mind kept talking over it. Venus in Taurus operates through the nervous system. It doesn't think, it feels. And when something or someone threatens your safety, your autonomy, your right to exist as your own person, your body knows. That visceral disgust you can't explain. That's not you being crazy. That's not you being dramatic or overthinking. That's your body rejecting an energy it recognizes as dangerous, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. Maybe it's the way they touch you that suddenly feels invasive instead of intimate. Maybe it's their tone of voice that makes your skin crawl. Maybe it's just this overwhelming sense of claustrophobia, like the walls are closing in and you need to run. Pluto in Aquarius is activating that response because it's trying to free you. It's trying to wake you up to the reality that what you thought was love might actually be control. What you thought was devotion might actually be possession. What you thought was passion might actually be obsession. And tomorrow, that whisper becomes a scream. Your body doesn't lie, and under this transit, it's not going to let you ignore it anymore. 3 relationships are about to be tested to their core. This isn't hitting everyone the same way. The precision of this transit, happening at exactly 005 degrees and 15 minutes of Taurus and Aquarius, means it's laser-focused on 3 specific relationship dynamics. And if you have strong placements in Taurus, Scorpio, or Aquarius, buckle up, because this is your crucible. The Taurus dynamic, when security becomes a cage. If your relationship is built around comfort, routine, predictability, financial security, or physical closeness, tomorrow is going to test whether that foundation is solid or whether it's actually a trap. Taurus loves stability, but the shadow side of Taurus is possession. It's the belief that if I provide for you, if I give you comfort, if I make your life easier, then you owe me. You're mine. You don't get to leave. You don't get to change. You don't get to want something different. Tomorrow, Pluto in Aquarius says, no, that's not love, that's ownership. The test is brutal and simple. Does your partner support your independence, or do they punish you for it? Do they celebrate your growth, or do they sabotage it? When you try to set a boundary, do they respect it? Or do they use money, housing, guilt, or the threat of withdrawal to force you back into compliance? If your relationship survives this transit, it's because both people understand that real security comes from choice, not chains. That you stay because you want to, not because you're too scared of what happens if you leave. But if the relationship is built on control disguised as care, tomorrow rips the mask off, and what you see underneath won't be pretty. The Scorpio dynamic, when intensity becomes suffocation. Scorpio doesn't do anything halfway. When Scorpio loves, it's all-consuming, total. It wants to merge completely, to know every secret, to eliminate any distance between souls. And in its highest form, that intensity is incredible. It's the kind of bond that transforms you. But in its shadow, it's paranoia, jealousy, the need to monitor, control, and possess in order to feel safe. It's checking their phone, interrogating their whereabouts. making them prove their loyalty over and over again because the fear of betrayal is so overwhelming you'd rather destroy the relationship yourself than risk being abandoned. Tomorrow's Venus-Pluto square drags all of that into the light, and here's the brutal truth. If your love is based on fear, it's not love, it's a trauma bond. The test for Scorpio dynamics is this: can you love someone without consuming them? Can you trust without proof? Can you give them space to be their own person without interpreting that space as rejection? The partner who really loves the Scorpio doesn't recoil from the intensity. They don't shame it or try to fix it, but they also don't let themselves be devoured by it. They hold their ground. They maintain boundaries. They prove through action, not words, that separation doesn't equal abandonment. If the relationship can navigate that, if it can transmute obsession into devotion, it becomes unbreakable. But if it can't, tomorrow might be the day it implodes. The Aquarius dynamic, when freedom becomes avoidance. Aquarius prides itself on being evolved, logical, above the messy, irrational chaos of human emotion. It values independence, intellectual connection, and the freedom to exist without being tethered to anyone else's needs. And that's beautiful, until it becomes a defense mechanism. Because here's the shadow of Aquarius, using independence as an excuse to never be vulnerable, using logic to bypass feelings, using "I need space" to avoid the terrifying physical reality of intimacy. Tomorrow, Venus in Taurus demands presence. It demands physical closeness, emotional availability, and the willingness to show up in the body, not just the mind. And for the Aquarius dynamic, that feels like a threat. The test is simple but excruciating. Can you stay present when it's uncomfortable? Can you let someone need you without running? Can you honor your need for space while also honoring the other person's need for connection? The partner who really loves the Aquarius doesn't try to cage them, doesn't guilt them for needing freedom, but they also don't let the Aquarius disappear every time things get real. They gently, firmly demand that the Aquarius stay in their body, stay in the relationship, and stop intellectualizing away the emotions that need to be felt. If the Aquarius can learn that true freedom includes the freedom to be deeply, vulnerably connected, the relationship levels up. But if they can't, if they keep using detachment as armor, tomorrow forces a reckoning. The Joe Goldberg test: is it love or is it obsession? There's a reason this transit is being called the cosmic lie detector, because one of the biggest reveals of tomorrow is the difference between love and obsession, between devotion and control, between "I can't live without you" as a beautiful truth versus a terrifying threat. Pluto rules obsession, the all-consuming need to possess, to monitor, to own, and when Pluto squares Venus, it exposes the people in your life who think loving you means owning you. This is the partner who tracks your location, who needs to know where you are, who you're with, what you're doing at all times, who gets angry when you don't respond to a text immediately, who isolates you from friends and family because they need to be your entire world. And here's the twisted part. They'll call it love. They'll say, "I just care about you so much. I just want to protect you. I can't help it. You mean everything to me." But tomorrow, you'll feel the difference, because your body will react. That suffocating feeling, that sense of being watched, that creeping awareness that you're not in a relationship, you're in a cage. Real love doesn't need to control. Real love doesn't need to monitor. Real love trusts. Real love gives space. Real love says, "I want you to be happy, even if that happiness doesn't include me." And if your partner can't say that, if the idea of you being independent, autonomous, free fills them with rage or panic, that's not love. That's a trauma bond. And tomorrow is the day you might finally see it for what it is. Your body is the truth detector. Here's what makes this transit so physically intense. Venus in Taurus doesn't operate in your head. It operates in your gut, your skin, your nervous system. It's the part of you that knows, on a cellular level, when something is safe or dangerous. And tomorrow, that knowing gets amplified to the point where you can't ignore it anymore. You might feel it as nausea when they walk in the room, a tightness in your chest when they speak, a sudden inexplicable need to get away, to be alone, to breathe. Your body is giving you data. It's telling you the truth that your mind has been rationalizing away. On the other hand, you might feel the opposite. You might feel this deep, grounding sense of safety, like no matter how intense things get, you just know, this person isn't going to hurt you. They're not going to leave. They're not going to use your vulnerability against you. That's the other side of this transit. For the relationships that are real, tomorrow doesn't destroy them, it deepens them. Because when someone can hold space for your shadow, your trauma, your messiest parts, and still choose to stay, that's when you know it's real. The purge begins. What doesn't serve you can't survive. One of the most powerful aspects of Pluto transits is that they act like a cosmic detox. Anything that's not aligned with your highest evolution, it has to go, and it doesn't go quietly. Tomorrow might bring breakups, explosive arguments, the sudden undeniable realization that you can't do this anymore, and it's going to feel devastating, like your world is ending. But here's the truth nobody tells you about Pluto. The death is always followed by rebirth. The destruction always makes room for something better. The painful ending always leads to a more authentic beginning. If a relationship ends tomorrow, or if it gets restructured in a way that feels uncomfortable, trust that it's happening for a reason. Trust that the universe is clearing out what's in the way of you experiencing real, unconditional, safe love. Because you deserve a partner who doesn't need to own you to love you, who doesn't need to control you to feel secure, who doesn't need you to stay small so they can feel big. You deserve someone who celebrates your autonomy, who encourages your growth, who holds you tight but never holds you down. And if that's not what you have right now, tomorrow might be the day you finally admit it. After the storm, what April 9th brings. If you make it through tomorrow, if you do the hard work of facing the truth, having the difficult conversations, setting the boundaries, something shifts dramatically on April 9th. That's when Mars, the planet of action, courage, and severance, enters Aries, and Mars in Aries doesn't hesitate, it doesn't second guess, it doesn't people please. So if tomorrow reveals that you need to leave, April 9th gives you the fire to actually do it. If tomorrow shows you that you need to fight for this relationship, April 9th gives you the courage to fight. If tomorrow exposes a boundary that needs to be set, April 9th gives you the voice to set it. The revelation happens tomorrow, the action happens next week, and by mid-month when Mercury enters Aries and the new moon resets everything, you'll be stepping into a completely new version of yourself. One that knows its worth, one that doesn't accept crumbs, one that understands that real love doesn't hurt, it heals. The final question, who will you be after tomorrow? Tomorrow doesn't just test your relationship, it tests you. It tests your willingness to face uncomfortable truths, your capacity to choose yourself even when it's terrifying, your ability to recognize that letting go of what's not working is not failure, it's freedom. Some of you will wake up on April 4th in a different reality, single when you thought you'd be partnered, free when you thought you were trapped, clear when you thought you were confused. Others will wake up more committed than ever, but to a relationship that's been completely transformed, where the rules have been rewritten, where the power dynamics have been balanced, where both people finally understand that love is not ownership. Either way, you won't be the same person you were before, because that's what Pluto does. It kills the old you, and from the ashes, something stronger rises. Tomorrow is not the end. Tomorrow is the beginning. The question is, are you ready? If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and subscribe for more insightful content.